So again, here I'm going to look at how loans work. And in order to keep track of all of this, I need to know when I make my payment. So we're going to call that the periods. I need to know what I'm making for payments. Now, I'm borrowing money, which means if I'm not paying, the bank is collecting interest from me. So I want to calculate how much interest are they collecting. So interest amounts. What happens is I owe the bank money, some time goes by, their interest is accruing. I send them money, guess what they do first? They say, you owe me this much money in interest. Okay, so that's what I'm calculating here. Whatever's left over after that is what reduces my amount. So what happens next is called a balance reduction. And then I'm going to calculate my balance. I'm going to use the previous example to do this. So here we were using a $900 payment. I'm going to put that in here. So my payment is going to be $900. To calculate the interest, I need to know the interest rate and I need to know the balance. So according to my previous problem, my loan balance was 100, copy that, $150,112.45. And here put in a fraction of a cent. Let's clean that up a little bit. All right, off to the side, I'm just going to make a note that my rate was equal to, I believe this one was 6%. Yeah, 6%. All right, so here's what happens. So there's my rate. Let's make it a decimal. So the bank has been holding on to this $150,000 debt of mine for a month. So what happens? They say, well, you owe me interest. How does interest work? Well, it's just simple interest. Simple interest on that is equal to the amount of the balance times your interest rate times the amount of time that's gone by. I'll blow this up in a sec. Hang on. How much has gone by? Well, 1 month, but my rate's yearly, so that would be 1/12 of a year. So then I'm just taking my balance, multiplying by the rate, and dividing by 12 because 1/12 of a year went by. And this is going to happen over and over again. Now, what's going to change? Well, the balance is going to change each month, but the rate stays the same. So to fix the rate in this formula, that's the H here. Since I'm going to copy this down, I need to sneak a $ in front of the 1 here. That's called absolute cell referencing. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. But the E2, the balance, that's going to change. So I'm just going to hit enter. So the bank, I sent them $900. What do they say? They say, you owe me an extra $750.56. And they're going to take that out of my 900. So they're going to take my 900. They're going to take out what I owe them. That leaves $149.44. Where does that money go? It goes to reduce my balance. Now, I need actually an extra row here because that's my previous balance. My new balance is going to be that above minus this right here. This up a little bit so we can see our rate over here. You out of the way. And the same process happens every month. So I'm going to call this period 0, period 1, and so on. And this is just going to go on and on and on. So let's look at like the first 16 months. What's my payment next month? Same thing. So I'm just going to go equals, grab the number above. How do they calculate what I owe them? Same thing as before. They're going to say, okay, you owe me this much. You owe me this much interest. And 1/12 of a year has gone by. Same calculation I did before. The only thing is the interest rate's always the same. So again, I'm going to put that $ there. How about the balance reduction? Same thing as before. They're going to take my 900 and they're going to subtract that interest amount. Oh, now I have $150 to pay off my account. A little bit better. Just like before, I'm going to take the previous balance and subtract whatever's left after the interest deduction. Now, I just did the same calculations twice in a row. I don't need to keep doing that. I can just fill these down. And this is how my loan works every damn month for 30 years. Right? Now, I have a loan on a house. I paid a shitload in interest. That's life, right? I wanted my house. I had to do this. To me, it was worth it. Some people say it's not worth it, rent instead. And I'm just going to fill this down a ways. How far should I fill it down? Let's stop here. I just did 79 times. 79 times. That's really, how many months is that? Is it 79 months? Not quite, because I'm offset a little here. So that so far I've calculated 77 months. Let's see, what's 77 divided by 12? 6.5 years roughly has gone by. And I still owe $136. $136,000. Okay, how many years was this loan for? 30. 30 times 12 is 360. I got to show 360 months. Let's see what happens. So since I'm going to fill double here because I want the numbers to fill too. So we're going to take this round, the 360th row. And when we get there, we should have 0. Okay, so this went negative, right? And I'm 2 cents off in the end. Right, rounding error, that happens with these things, but that's not bad. 2 cents out of 150,000. So my last payment, they would tell me before I made it, oh, you only owe us $899.98. You can forget that 2 cents, right? Or they would send it back to me later, maybe. This is my loan over time. To calculate, this is what's called an amortization table. Usually when you get a new loan, the bank or lending agent will give you this table if you ask for it. And sometimes they give it to you anyway. And it's going to be like, I don't know, 20 pages or something. Because there's a lot of information there. Make that dollars. So let's just check a couple of things here. So this was a month-by-month breakdown. All I did for this calculation, I didn't use any fancy formulas here, right? I just did a multiplication there. I did a subtraction there, and I did a subtraction there. That's it. I just had to know how to organize the table. Check out the total interest. Total interest. To get the total interest here, all I have to do is add up everything in the interest column. So I'm just going to go sum for add, grab the whole interest column, make that a little bit wider, dollars, dollars. So this says, according to this table, I paid $173,887.53. Okay, is that what we calculated earlier? Let's see, what tab am I in here? This tab is this one. $173,887.55 versus 53 cents. But remember, there was a 2 cent deviation at the end because of rounding error. It happens. We're in the ballpark. So what's the deal? Well, in the beginning of a loan, you're always going to pay more in interest than you are paying off your loan because you borrowed a lot of money. The way this amortization payment works, however, because it's designed to zero out your account after a fixed number of months, that amount of interest is always going to be less than your payment. But at first, it's barely less and it hurts like hell. But that's life. Later, it gets better, right? If we scroll down here, 900 versus 600 after 10 years, right? 120 months is 10 years. 240 months is 20 years later. There's that right here. Oh, finally, more than half of my payment is going to pay off my balance. And it's not till the very end of these 360 months, 30 years later, where it's a minuscule amount they're taking from me. And most of my money is going to pay off the balance. That's the life of a loan. It's a sad but true reality for the way we decided to do finances in this world today.
Loans were just gonna quickly scroll down just a little more down.
Yeah.
Just a little more down.
So again, this is called an amortization table. When you get a loan, the mortgage broker or the bank will often give you a table that has all this detail in it. Sometimes they don't, and you have to ask for it. They'll usually give a summary of this detail. In particular, they say, okay, here's your monthly payment. Here's the total interest you'll pay over that time. Here's the initial amount of the loan, that $150,000. There's a few other details that go into loans we're not getting into here. We're just going to let that go for a sec. All right, now, getting on to the, talking about the written assignment a little bit, 6% is a pretty high rate. During the pandemic, rates dropped. So I remember, hearing on the news, house interest rates are like 1.5%. At the time, mine was around 6%. Thinking, shit, 1.5% would be way better. Is it worth it for me to refinance? So what I had to do is either with a calculation or in a table like this, I had to look and say, okay, maybe I'm 10 years into my loan. Let's get to that line 120. I still owe 125,000. That's a lot. 10 years ago, it was 150. Painfully slow beginning of a mortgage. That's life. So then I basically start a new loan table at this stage to say, okay, if it switches to 1%, how much better off am I going to be? And it turns out we know all the math we need to answer that question, right? We would just say, okay, this is my new balance. I'm just going to highlight that for a sec. A highlighter here somewhere, text color. Oh, highlighter, there it is. There's my highlighter. This is my 10th year in. Interesting thing about that is, suppose we didn't have this table. How would we figure out how much we owe? Well, it turns out our formulas tell us that. So back here, that third to last formula here tells you for any payment amount, how much that payment is worth as a loan now. So let's check that out. So check out this payment. It's the PV version on the spreadsheet. So watch this. This is kind of cute. I'm just going to come off to the side here. What's my monthly payment? $900, right? How much longer do I have to pay off this loan? 10 years have gone by. It's a 30-year loan. I have 20 years to go. So I want to ask my formula, what is 20 years worth of $900 payments? So according to the spreadsheet version of the formula, that's the PV formula. Or if you want, you could use, there we go, this formula right here. That's messier. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to use the PV. PV says, what's your interest rate? My current interest rate is 6% over 12 months. How much do I have to go? Well, I'm 10 years in, that means I have 20 years to go. 20 times 12 months. What's the payment amount? We enter that as a negative. That's the 900 here. And then what do you want the future value to be? I want it to be 0. I want to be done with this loan. And check out the number I'm getting. I don't want to fill it down. It matches the number I have here. So what is my point here? Well, in order for me, after 10 years, to figure out what my balance is here, I had to make a table with 120 rows. My point here is that I don't actually have to do that. I can use our formula for a loan payment to figure out how much $900 per month for 20 years is worth now. That's what that tells me. So again, if I didn't have the table, I can still figure it out. And then I can say, okay, let's start over. Let's refinance at that amount, 1%. How will the rest of my life work out? And that's pretty straightforward. We would just make a new loan setup for that amount, which we've done a couple of times before.